Hello folks, it's your friend Boney here. So before we get into today's episode, Emily and I need to let you know that the Summer 2024 Community Manager cohort is now open for registration. Now, when you work on a project or work in a business, it can be very, very lonely and isolated. And even though you're surrounded by people, finding the right people to connect with and talk through those problems is really hard to do. Everything that's ever worked for me and Emily in our lives has been around doing stuff either in a coaching scenario or in a small group scenario. So in a 12-week commitment with yourself and other people, you will unravel and come up with solutions and ideas and connections that you didn't even think were available. So if you go to the link in the show notes wherever you're listening to this, or if you go to the Coworking Values Podcast.com, and there's a link in the website bar there that goes to cohorts. And now let's get into today's episode.
Okay, hello everyone. I'm Tony Bacigalupo. You're listening to the Coworking Values Podcast, and I'm very honored to have Alycia Levels Moore with me today. She's the founder of Polaris BHM in Birmingham, Alabama. Alycia, thank you so much for taking the time to hang with me today.
Yes, thank you for having me. I'm super excited.
Wonderful. So for those of you listening, maybe you don't see the video, Alicia's wearing a Woodlawn is for Lovers shirt. What is Woodlawn is for Lovers?
Yes, so Woodlawn is a community that I live, work, and play. It's also the place where Polaris Birmingham is housed. It's an amazing community in the East Birmingham area. It's a lot of vibrancy, a lot of revitalization going on. A lot of amazing things happen there. So I am obviously a Woodlawn advocate. I live there. My business is there. I'm raising my kids there. And so I'm representing for my community. And this is one of our community shirts. There's a company called Club Duquette, and they produce the shirts for the community. So it's a really cool collaborative effort there.
That's incredible. Okay, so I want to dive straight into that because I think it's so important. There's this conversation about social fabric, social capital, the way that people are interacting with their neighborhoods. We've got a world where just a lot of people are spending more time on their screens and less time leaving their homes and interacting with their neighbors. So what more can you say about kind of how you ended up getting involved in this Woodlawn neighborhood and how that's played out in recent years?
Yeah, so I'll give you a little backstory about myself. So I was born in New York, raised in East Atlanta, and I met my husband at Tuskegee University. He's from Birmingham, and he said, "Hey, like we're getting married. I think we should move to Birmingham." And I was like, "Oh, interesting," And he was like, "More specifically, there is this neighborhood, Woodlawn, that I think that we should move to." So at the time when we were dating, and he's living in Birmingham, he's volunteering at Woodlawn High School, and so he was really invested in the neighborhood. And this is a little bit when the revitalization was just kind of starting to bubble a little bit. It is not everything that we know it to be today. So it still was very much in transition. And so I packed up my stuff, moved from Atlanta to Birmingham, and I was like, oh, interesting, And so he was, volunteering at the high school, and I have always been entrepreneurial, into things of business, etc. And so, I just really found an opportunity to get involved in my community. So there was a program going on called Urban Main through an organization called Main Street America. And one of my neighbors said, "Hey, I think Alycia would be a good person to help you all to figure out how to nurture the talents of the community. Like, what does it look like to make sure that as the neighborhoods are changing, right? The coffee shops are coming, the new things are happening. How do we make sure that the folks who have lived here 10, 15, 20 years, that their entrepreneurial endeavors are being nurtured while their community is changing, so that if they want to participate in their community economy, they have that same access." So it's not like revitalization and all these things are happening around them. It's happening with them, and they too get to participate and benefit from this newfound excitement around where they have decided to live, and they've toughed it out, right, when no one was paying attention. And so I got involved in how do we develop our entrepreneurial kind of community ecosystem? How do we make sure they have access to the information and the resources? And they say they have the same support that if they too want to start a business in their community, they can do so. And so that really kind of, got my wheels turning around what does it look like to build an ecosystem? What does it look like to support entrepreneurs? What does it look like to support those who people may not give enough credit to in terms of their ideas based on the industry industry based on the phase in which they're at. And so that's really how I got started. And so that led me down just a road of, like I said, doing a lot of community development, economic development work. And during the pandemic, I was sitting on the couch watching YouTube with my husband. And for some reason during the pandemic, we were like all into like container homes, right? Because there was so much going on in the world. We're like, we're going to buy a shipping container. We're going to live in it. And so we were watching, and there was this one particular shipping container. It was just so cool. And I was like, I think I want to start a co-working space. And he was like, what? I was like, I don't know. I was like, I don't even know where that came from, And so I just so happened to be on a panel in Birmingham, and a guy flew in from Inglewood, California. His name was Matt. And we were talking, and he was like, hey, I own a co-working space in Inglewood. And I was like, the odds. So we developed a friendship, and he walked me through every single thing I would need to do to start a co-working space. And I said, okay, cool. And there was a building that was vacant in my neighborhood for like 3 years. And I always thought it was just the cutest building. So I called the number on the side of the building, no money. It was like, hey, I want to walk through here and look at this place. And he's like, okay, cool. And I literally walked through that building probably every week. I brought interior designers, I brought contractors. And he was like, ma'am, if you walk through this building again and don't have any money to give me, I'm going to call the police on you, But I was like, I'm visionary, get out of my way. And so, fast forward, we were able to get the funding, we were able to get the capital. It was about 20 or 30 friends that, stuck it out with me and painted walls and did all different types of things. And we were able to develop this really cool space where we provide community for entrepreneurs in the community and outside of the community. But really what was important for me is that for the kids, as they're walking, home from school or walking to wherever, that they see these open windows and they see folks working and doing things in their neighborhood that they also have access to. So that was a very long way of kind of answering, how did you get into this space? So it was just important to figure out, how do we nurture and provide space for people? So when I got to Birmingham, I was like, well, where's everybody meeting? Where are they working? Where are the cool kids? And so I saw an area of opportunity to be able to provide that space. So it's colors everywhere, right? It's Afro beats playing. I want it to be vibrant because work and life is hard enough, right? So also making sure that when they walk in the space, they feel excited to get to business. That was my long way of answering that one question.
No, that's beautiful. That's beautiful because it's all so good and so inspiring and useful. I feel like one of the, I want to say, undertapped opportunities for co-working is for them to play a more direct role in the fabric of their neighborhood. And so the more that they can be integrated with other small businesses, other maybe civic initiatives, things like that, it's just better for everybody involved. Like I consider co-working to be a modern piece of civic infrastructure. And, and so a lot of people don't necessarily even realize that's why they're doing it. Your story, I think, is already just providing a really valuable example for some folks. So I appreciate that. So in terms of the co-working space, what else is your co-working space doing that integrates with the neighborhood, with the other businesses, organizations? What kinds of things have y'all been up to?
Yeah, so I think the really cool thing is that we kind of, I say this all the time, we're a co-working space, but really it's a covert operation, should I say. Like, we are an educational hub, right? And so co-working is a piece of the pie, right? It's complementary, but really it's about educating folks. So we do a lot of programming. We have technical assistance. So most of the business owners that are coming through, we're providing technical assistance to them. So for instance, we have a retail pop-up inside of our co-working space. So we rotate business owners in and out. Our first tenant, she was doing small scale manufacturing. Our new tenant, she's in retail, kind of testing out her online boutique option in a storefront. So we partner her with a visual merchandiser, right? Like we're doing different things to kind of not only just provide space to work, but how do we help you to thrive? How do we help you to think about how you grow, right? We just launched a new kind of program or initiative called the Workshop. So pretty much we have a conference room. We provide the conference room for about 15 people for an hour and a half. We do your graphics, we do registration. You come with something you want to teach, and we provide it for you. So now we have all these folks who are always saying like, hey, I would be great at teaching this accounting, or I would be great to show people how to do this. And so really, how do we facilitate space for people to learn, but then also realize that they are experts in what it is that they do? So I think a big part of what we do too, in terms of tying in the community, but our secret sauce is providing a space of safety for people to dream. And a lot of times when people come in, like after they come in and they work or whatever, they're like, man, it feels like home, right? And when you think about home, home is a place where you belong. Home is a place where you feel safe. Home is a place where you may not always get it right, but there's someone who's going to pick you up and help you out. And that's really the culture that we are nurturing and facilitating in our space. And it bleeds out into the community. You know, our doors are open. We also have a space for a coffee shop. So, you know, really now our co-working space, our coffee shop lobby really serves as a third space. So it's not just closed off only to members, right? So you have access to experience the vibrancy and to come in and get coffee and say, okay, what else is going on in here? You know? And so I think, you know, it's important too, like to look at all of the different ways that you can innovate your model, but still support your audience and support your community.
Yeah, I think it's a big deal to be able to provide, you said safety. And I think that that's an important word because, you know, people might not think of entrepreneurship in terms of needing safety, but having that sense of a nurturing environment, and accepting and encouraging environment is not something that people who run their own businesses are used to having. Running your own business tends to be kind of a lonely thing. And and the circumstances around us are not necessarily very supportive of, you know, of entrepreneurship. So has that been something, you know, that's motivated you in terms of your own experience? Did you have, you know, what you needed coming into entrepreneurship, or are you trying to fill a gap that, you know, maybe for folks to have something you didn't have?
Yeah, I think it's a good question. So I'm wired a little different. I am a self-starter, self-motivated type of person. And if someone has something that I need, I'm gonna go ask. Like one of my gifts is persistence. It's like, hey, I know you saw my email. Nice to meet you. I'm actually at your office right now. You know, like, you know, I'm going to go get that thing. But I realize that what comes natural to me doesn't come natural to a lot of folks. And so the thing that was disheartening is that I saw so many beautiful minds, so many brilliant ideas that died before they ever had a chance to get into the world because of fear, right? A lack of confidence, or not having support, or believing that they were capable. And again, it was having that place of safety for someone to say, no, that actually is good. Have you thought about it this way? Okay, well, I'm going to be on your head. I'm going to keep you accountable. You said you were going to do this in 2 weeks. If you walk in this door, you don't have that. Like, you are not even going to want to walk in because I'm going to text you. I'm going to, you know, I'm going to chase you down. And so, you know, a part of that is really being a champion for dreams and dreamers, you know. And I think, you know, one of the craziest things about being an entrepreneur is that you do have to be a little delusional, right? Because you have to believe what no one believes and see what no one can see. And so a lot of times you need someone to affirm you and to really just give you that extra push. And I think that that's really what Polaris is all about. So even the name is derived from the North Star. Like, that is what Polaris means. So culturally, during the time of enslavement, the North Star was a signifier of I'm moving toward freedom. I'm moving towards something. But also along that journey, there were people who would come alongside and leave things to support you and make sure you had somewhere to go. And so really, I wanted this to be the North Star, right? For business owners. Hey, I know when I get in here that I'm free. My ideas are free. My passions are free, right? Like, my imagination can be free, and people are going to support that. And I think if we had more spaces where people's ideas were nurtured, you know, we could get more done. But sometimes, like, if you're not in tech, or you're not building the next new app, or, you know, you're not, you know, curing something through health tech or ed tech, you know, people, they kind of look at your idea like, you know, because right now there is a light, and these industries, right, and advancements are absolutely necessary. But there are some people who they just make some really good food, you know, and food, you know, and food is a part of healing the world too. But but people will kind of diminish what they do because maybe it's not a certain industry, or maybe they feel like it's saturated. And I think that people need more spaces to dream. And I think too, when you come from certain environments, you're told that you just need to focus on what can do this, or what, a lot, but no one really gives you the place to say, hey, it's okay to dream. It's okay to try that thing out. And it's not to say that every idea is going to be the next Apple, or that you need to go full time with it. But there's a sense of autonomy and peace and joy in life when you can just try a thing, right? Like you can just try your hand at it, and people are making you feel bad for doing so. So yeah, so that's our goal, is how do we, nurture safety in community, and we have a set of standards, and everyone operates in that as well.
Then what are those standards?
Yeah, the standard is no idea is a bad one, right? When we're talking to each other, let me kind of add some context around that. The standard is, it's kind of culture setting, right? So, for example, you go into, I'll use Chick-fil-A, for example. Do you have Chick-fil-A's up north?
We do.
Okay.
They're insanely popular. It's crazy.
Okay, yes, everyone loves a bird in between two pieces of bread, but like there's a standard when you go into Chick-fil-A in comparison to other like casual fast food places. There's a difference, right, in terms of customer service. You can feel it when you walk in the door. Hello, someone's going to greet you. It's my pleasure. Would you like more of that? There's this standard. So every time you go in, there's an expectation that people are going to be glad that you're there, that they're going to serve you with joy, right? That if they mess up, they're going to be Johnny on the spot to get it right. And so when I say standard in Polaris, it's the same way. When you walk in, from the person who's at the coffee shop, or from the person who has a private office in the back, they're all engaged and bought into your vision. If you walk into that building, like everybody knows what's going on with the other, right? And so I think our standard is, when you walk in, the culture we set is home, it's safety, it's love. We're gonna call you by name. We're gonna, even if we've never seen you before, hey, how you doing? Come on, what you need? Come in. It's like y'all don't even know me, right? And so our standard is, again, it's safety, it's home, it's family, it's the ability to try, and to know that there's somebody in here who's going to support you and can help you get where you're trying to go.
That's incredible. And this, I imagine, is something that you're sharing with members of your team who are helping run it, but also the members of the space themselves, that everyone is kind of on board with the idea that the culture here is one of mutual support. Everyone's here to help each other out.
Yep. It's in the messaging, right? It's in the newsletters we write. It's in the way we greet you when you come through the door. It's in our text blast. It's, it's in all of the things. It's in our social media posts, right? Our messaging is very, very clear. And that experience is the same too. Even if someone's not a member and they're just coming in to rent out the conference room for the day to do a workshop or something of the sort, they're like, wow, I like y'all here. Y'all nice, and they want to come back, right? Because you go where you feel safe. You go where you feel like you belong. And it's important to nurture a sense of belonging for people. Because I feel like we produce our best when we feel safe. You hear me say that word a lot, when we feel safe. Yeah.
Yeah. And again, it's a certain kind of safety, that it's not safety from like injury, but it's a safety in terms of your disposition, your dreams, your commitments to doing something unusual, that there's a rebellious aspect to entrepreneurship that needs to be nurtured and embraced. So
yes, for sure.
When I was running my own space in New York City, one of the things we learned was that people walking in the door would often be just like instantly have this reaction of like, what is this place? How does this work? Like, what am I supposed to do? And I remember, having to explain to the folks who would be running the front door to say, part of the reason that we're here is just to educate people, expose people to a different way of thinking about how people can work and how people can cooperate together. And so if you need to take some time to sit down and explain to somebody, what is this place and how does this work? Like, that's part of the job. Even if that person never becomes a customer, we're meant to be a little bit of a visitor center here and to be, kind of a living exhibit. So I imagine you get this a lot too, of people coming in who just like confused, almost like, what is this place? This is amazing, but it's not like anything I've ever seen before.
Yes, that you would be exactly right. I think that was such a good analogy in terms of a visitor center, right? Because we get a lot of foot traffic. People are just like, oh my God, this is so nice. From the outside, I thought it was a furniture store because I just see all this nice furniture. Like, oh my God. I'm like, oh, well, I don't know if that's a compliment or not, but thank you. And so once they walk in and, they're greeted by myself or like one of our team members, and they see our pop-up retail space and our podcast studio, and they see how the bathrooms are decorated and a fireplace, and, they see all these different things. They're like, whoa. And even though like co-working is not a new thing, it's so interesting how it still is like this newer concept that people are trying to understand, but they don't realize they do it all the time, right? Like they go to coffee shops, but the co-working aspect isn't there, but it's a place where you gather, where you can work. But I think the beauty is that we have an opportunity, to your point, to show people what it really looks like to, I like to say co-labor together, right? Like think about it, we labor together in whatever it is that we're doing. And so we're constantly kind of talking people through what that looks like, what that means. I think too, sometimes it's off-putting because people are not used to having so much support. It's like, wait, this is a lot. It's like when somebody's like, you want to go with me? Circle yes or no. They're like, I don't know, because they're not used to that support. And so a lot of times too, we are kind of helping people to say like, hey, it's okay. Like we really mean what we say. Like we're really committed to you and what it is that you do. And so we'll find some people that kind of stand on the sidelines and watch, and they engage with us as they're building trust, but it is a thing where you're really kind of helping people to understand this concept of what it means to work together in community. And I think right now, like the word community is just like everywhere, right? Like everything's a community, but I think there are some really important factors in what that really means. And so, yes, we are constantly helping people to understand what it looks like to work together. And then when it clicks in their body all the way.
That's a beautiful thing. Okay, Alycia, I'm gonna hit you with kind of a crazy hypothetical, and we'll just play along with me on this, because I'm picturing someone's listening in on this. They're super inspired. Maybe they run a co-working space and they kind of, they have like a passion for building community, but haven't necessarily had the level of understanding or support and connection around them to really realize the vision of it. I think there's a lot of folks who maybe have kind of a notion of why they're starting a co-working space, but it goes a lot deeper than we all necessarily realize. So what I'm wondering is, if you just kind of magically traded places with somebody who was running a co-working space that was just kind of going okay, but it wasn't really popping, it wasn't really involved with the local community, that kind of thing, what would your first move be to turn that place into something really special and vibrant?
That's such a great question. So I think one of the first things I would do is I would have them together, the people who are engaged in a room, and to get more information around what is making them stay. And why are they currently thinking about potentially leaving, which is something I had to even do myself, right? Because I think one of the things we have to realize in business, I had a mentor tell me one time, don't get so married to the solution, but get married to the problem, right? Because the problem evolves, it grows. When you get married to the solution, it's what I think is right. So I only move around what I think is right. I don't ask any questions. This is what we're doing, right? It's kind of that Blockbuster versus Netflix type thing, right? Blockbuster felt like they knew the solution that was going to be the solution forever, but that wasn't the case. Movie viewing was evolving. And so you have to really get married to the problem, because the problem today looks different than the problem tomorrow, right? So what I realized is that in my market, in my audience, at first the problem was space, but then I realized it really was more entrepreneurial support. It was more coaching. It was more technical assistance. So now we're even evolving and adding an online membership, right? Where we're gathering, and the co-working space is complementary because based on our audience and where we are in our city, a lot of our entrepreneurs are not full-time. So they feel bad if they can't come to the space. They're like, oh, I would love it, but I can't make it there full-time. So we're like, okay, cool. We need to pivot. So the first thing I would do is I would have them to assess the people who are still bought in. Why are they bought in? And why are they thinking about leaving? Have those honest questions. And I did that. I called our members who are still on our roster and I said, hey, thank you so much. Why are you here? And if you've thought about leaving, tell me why. This is an honest conversation. I feel great about it because no matter what, I'm going to win. But I have to know where you are. And I think we have to take an assessment of our audience and figure out what they really need. And are we providing them what we think they need, or are we providing them what they actually say they want and need? Right. And so I think, and then from there, you have to really understand your messaging, right? Building your tribe. How do they make meaning of the world? What do they identify? How do they see themselves? How do they talk about themselves so that you can make sure whatever product, whatever service you're offering, it ties to their identity, like what they believe, like, because you want to get people to move, but people only move around things that they feel closely tied to who they are. Right. And so I think even, I may mention earlier around home and safety and support, right? Like I understand that is what our audience is missing. And so when I use those words, it's a trigger for them to know it's okay, because a lot of our audience, they are newer business owners who are still afraid of what the next looks like. And so when you're afraid, you need safety. You need someone to tell you it's okay. So I would really take an assessment of who's still there, why are they there, and why are they thinking about leaving, and be honest with yourself about what you're offering, and take that information and begin to pivot, whether your model, your services, what you offer, maybe your times, right? And really take an assessment of what needs to be done, because you don't want to keep moving with assumptions. And I think a lot of times business owners, we make a lot of assumptions without really just asking the people, what do you want? What do you need? Right? Because, a lot of times people are like, I want to go into entrepreneurship because I want to be my own boss. Well, you will never be your own boss. Someone is going to tell you what to do, right? Like you have to answer to someone. And when you're a business owner, your customers and clients, they are the ones that you answer to. So if you are a problem solver, you figure out how to solve the problems for the people who trust you to solve them, right? So I would take an assessment and kind of do a focus group and figure out what's working, what's not working, and pivot from there.
Alycia, I just want to reflect what you just said. What I find important is that you are someone who has found a lot of things that work. You've experienced some success in terms of building vibrant community, but I put you into a situation hypothetically where you don't know the lay of the land, the motivations of the people in the room, and you didn't go with, I'm just going to assume that the playbook I'm running today is going to work in this new context. Your first move is, let me learn what's going on in the minds of the people who are in this room with me, and then map out where my next move is going to be based on the people in the room, talking to the actual members and assessing from there. And I think that that's just so important whenever we're trying to make the right move for our business in any context, but especially a community one. So I'm with you all the way on that.
No, thank you. I appreciate that.
So, all right, I want to take a bit of a selfish step here, because now just applying the same kind of thinking to the community level, neighborhood level. My wife and I moved outside of the city about a year ago. We're looking to figure out where we want to put down roots, where we want to build a family. And I do not just want to live in a house where I got to drive everywhere and I don't know my neighbors and all of those things. So I'm just wondering what you have observed in terms of what's worked to build a sense of that neighborhood community, perhaps in a place where it doesn't exist already, like how you can kind of nurture it or accelerate it. What have you kind of observed about, Woodlawn that's worked really well for y'all?
Yeah, that's a layered question, because I think about it from like so many different ways. And I think the interesting thing about Polaris is that not only is, our space is a community-based co-working space. So we're not like in the city center. We are smack dab in the middle of a community. And it's also the community that I live in, right? Which also gave me kind of an edge or an advantage because I know the people. I know what our community needs. I was able to tap into the partnerships and the things that are currently happening on the ground. I think the scenario around like, hey, me and my wife just moved here. We want to really tap into community. What does that look like? How does it work? And I don't know if the question is around like, how would I approach you all or kind of pull you into that? Is that kind of what you're thinking about?
Yeah, I'm just thinking like there's a lot of folks where they have an uphill battle if they want to feel like they're part of a real neighborhood.
Yes.
You know?
So a few things like I believe in like traditional and then non-traditional, like the new ways of marketing. And so I'm a very hands-on communicative type of person. So really like, and then too, I've helped to like run a few political campaigns. So I believe in canvassing. Like I'm going to the door, I'm talking to people, you know, you're from a business standpoint, we're sending out mailers, you know, we're connected with the community partners to understand like who's coming in. So for instance, one of the things I had thought about one time before is in our neighborhood, there were some newer developments going on. So partnering with those who are developing the new subdivision that, hey, whenever you're doing an open house or somebody signs, can you add them to our community mailing list, email list, so they know what's going on and we can pull them into what's happening, right? Can we create some type of onboarding when people are moving into the neighborhood where they know these are the businesses, this is what's going on, this is the day we have meetings, right? Like there's an opportunity because I also do like community development work, right? It's really kind of creating an onboarding process for those who are coming into your community, the same way you would do with a business where you're onboarding like a new hire, really, you know, like this is who we are. This is what we believe. Everyone around wears a Woodlawn is for lovers shirts because it's like, hey, this is who we are. We're lovers. Like, come on in here, you know? And so really, you know, really kind of doing some like grassroots stuff, right? But also kind of connecting with the partners in the community. But I think too, just giving a really practical example, because I was that person, right? Coming from Atlanta, moving into a neighborhood, and I'm like, first of all, where am I? You know, this is a new city. I don't know anyone around me. I had to actively go out and figure out like, hey, what are y'all doing over here? What's your name? Like, well, you know, do a little research. Like, my name's Alycia. I do this. You know, I had to also be intentional. If I wanted community, I had to be community. I had to find community. You know, I had to envelop myself in what was happening. I think sometimes too, and this may be deviating a little bit outside of the scope of the question, but I think too, sometimes when we move into new places, we have this expectation that people are supposed to come to us, but you also are to add to the fabric of where you are. So you are to also go out, and you are also to meet your neighbors, and you are also to figure out how can I add and be valuable to this new community and this new group of people? How can I add to the fabric, and not what can they do for me, but really what can I do for my neighborhood? And I think for myself and my husband, we both had that thought process. And so we both are very involved in our community. So, you know, my husband, he was doing a lot of volunteer work and community organizing, and now he's a city councilor for the district in our area, right? I do a lot of like community development and entrepreneurial work in our neighborhood, right? Like we're raising our 4 children in this neighborhood. We have a business in our community. And so, you know, sometimes we go in and we're like, oh, well, I don't like the stores. No one talks to me. I don't like this. But it's like, have you decided what you're going to add, right?
Yeah.
Have you decided to learn about where you are and what you can do and how you can find your place and be valuable and help to amplify all of the amazing things that are already happening in this place? And so, I think it's a twofold kind of thing. I know I just kind of went all over the place, but, you know, it's a little bit of my own personal experience with being in community, but also building a business in my community, you know?
Yeah, no. So there's a few things I want to reflect there, just working my way backwards. For one, I think a culture of like a consumer mindset of community or of a neighborhood has set in, maybe without us realizing it. That I think a lot of us don't realize that we're perpetuating this idea that like the community is here to just give us stuff and we're just here to like, to consume the results of it. And it's just not, that's just not the way it should be. We're supposed to be active participants in our community,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not just what we get out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And then, the other thing is, I found before I ran my co-working space that I was going out basically every night to another event, somebody else's community, someone else's space. And I was going out and finding people and supporting people and connecting with them. Once I was running my own space, this habit started to come up of I started to withdraw and focus on bringing people to me. Part of my business is like, I got to get people to come to me. But I realized over time, like, I haven't left my space in a while. I need to go back out there and put my face in front of other people and make friends, go to them, go put myself where they are. But it took a deliberate effort to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And then one last thing that I want to mention that was right kind of at the top, and you're embodying this, you're wearing the t-shirt. Some of the most successful co-working space owners I know are people who have patriotism for their city, for their neighborhood. And I think that commitment to saying, I love this place, I want to celebrate it, I want to sing its praises, I want to encourage people to be my neighbors. I think that that's just such an important energizing factor for everybody around.
Yeah. And I think that's the power of like community-based spaces, right? It's not just about, how we can bring in the newest thing or all these different people who are working here at this tech hub and all this, but it's really centering yourself on like the needs of others and how to add vibrancy, and you can really be a champion for a place, and people love to be a part of something that's moving, that's loved, and that's valued. And I think that's kind of one of the things of beauty that we have in the Woodlawn community. And just to add to your last point that you were making, I think that's very true. As business owners, sometimes, we get bogged down in the day-to-day trying to keep our heads afloat, because it is a very overhead heavy business, right? You have a physical space that has utility bills that are due every month, right? You have software, you have security. There's so many different things that you have to be mindful of, pay for, and think about in terms of your pricing, just all these different things that you can really, because you have an office space, it becomes your office. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like it's like you stay there, like you're just working, And so more recently, I've been more intentional, like, okay, Alycia, go out, like talk to people, like, yeah, they're hearing about it, but really, you are your biggest champion for your business. People want to see you. They want to hear from you. They're excited to learn your why, which draws people as well. So I think that was a very good point as well.
Well, I appreciate that. And so just as we kind of round things out here, how do we learn more about what you're working on? Where are you active on the internet these days?
Yes. So our website is Polaris, Polaris BHM.com, PolarisBHM.com. You can learn about our membership. You can see our videos, but also we have a podcast. It's called How Do I Do This Podcast. We've had a lot of people ask, come in and they're like, how do I do this? How do I do accounting? How do I start my business? And so we was like, okay, cool. How do I do this? So we're walking people through like the simplistic steps of how to do certain things. So we're talking to people around marketing, people who are in music, people who are in tech, so we have our How Do I Do This podcast. It's on YouTube, and of course, all the other podcast platforms. We're super heavy on Instagram, and it's just Polaris Birmingham, and then LinkedIn as well. We have our LinkedIn page. I'm super active on my personal one, which is Alycia Levels Moore. But yeah, so we're LinkedIn, Instagram, a lot of YouTube, where you can learn about. We also host something called Small Business Week and our Ideas to Impact Week. So a lot of our sessions that we have with attorneys and accountants and entrepreneurial professors, we have all of that information. So you can always go back and listen and learn, because again, our goal and our trajectory is to be an educational hub and institution for entrepreneurs.
Absolutely love it. It really an amazing and inspiring story. I hope folks follow what you're doing and follow in your footsteps. I think everyone has a lot to learn from your example, and appreciate you taking the time. I want to see you speaking at more conferences. I want to see you up on stage, and I'm just excited to follow your journey. So, Alycia, thank you so much for your time, and keep on rocking it. We'll be cheering you on.
Okay, thank you so much, Tony. I appreciate it.
All right.